Hey guys, you're listening to the Integrate Yourself podcast with Allison and Maja. Welcome to the show. Today we're speaking with Josh and Jeannie Rubin of EastWest Healing. And we're so excited to be talking with them today. They're owners of EastWest Healing and they're out of Carlsbad, California. Their philosophy and approach to nutrition coaching is to redefine what it means to heal in this day and age. They are setting a bar for the practice and movement of healing. They've managed to extract refreshing simplicity from complex physiology that enables you to become your own health practitioner. And they are revolutionizing nutrition for thyroid health. They offer lots of free information online, e-course, ebooks, and one-on-one coaching all over the globe. And I really agree with that statement, Josh. I feel like you guys are totally revolutionizing nutrition, because most of the thyroid health information out there right now is not really working for people, I've noticed. So, I'd like to actually start out with you guys just telling us a little bit about your background so everybody can know who you are and what inspired you guys to do this work together.
You want to go for it? The funny thing is, what you just read is what a client said about our work a couple months ago.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was like, it was
testimonial.
It was a testimonial that a client wrote, and it was almost like he put it together like our thoughts for us, and it was just amazing. And of course we use it, but yeah, it just like puts together our work so well. What got me into this, and is that was the question?
Well, yeah. Well, a little bit about you guys' backgrounds. I know you guys have different backgrounds, and you're studying osteopathic manual therapy, and I know Jeannie's a craniosacral therapist, but you guys also come together to do the nutritional coaching, which is very specific to thyroid health. So yeah, maybe you can tell a little bit about the journey to get there.
Both journeys are long. I mean, I grew up in a household where my mother was the I don't know, you call it not president, but like manager of a weight loss clinic. So I grew up in a household where like health and food was really important. We sat down and ate every meal. Now at the time, this is back in the 80s, but we always had like veggie burgers or skim milk. We didn't have Coke. We really didn't have like sugary cereals in our house. So it was all about food. My life literally revolved around healthy food. And from there, somehow I didn't go into nutrition. I went into occupational therapy like through college. And that's my schooling. I don't really use it anymore. I mean, I still have the degree. And that led me through, of course, the Czech Institute and teaching for them and many other numerous certifications, and then through, osteopathic school. But through the process, it's, interesting. No matter what I've studied, it's always come back to physiology. And it's a passion of mine because I find just the function of how the body works, not dysfunction, pretty fascinating. Not just how it works, but the connections of how it works. And I feel that when it comes to health, if we understand how the body works, we can kind of reverse engineer something and really say, well, this is what's going on, and this is what we need to do to fix it. But really, it always comes down to food. It always comes back to food. And how we live and how we breathe. Those are the essentials. So, through that, of course, we're summing this all up. Just, started a business with my wife and really created this way of eating and living for people that have thyroid issues. Now, we use that term loosely because really what we're trying to do is get people's cells to be breathing better, because the cells need thyroid hormone to produce energy, to be in homeostasis, to be in balance and harmony. But we can't really tell people that because they don't even understand what a cell is.
7 years ago, the word metabolism was defined much differently than it is today. So as we began this journey of really developing the work that we have now, we had to get a little bit more specific, and I think that's what led us towards really highlighting the thyroid a little bit because of its effect issue in the body. So, yeah.
But it's like we've been influenced by so many people, of course, but we feel like the way we put our work together is like it's our work, and that's why we say revolutionizing, because we feel like
We're a little bit of a pioneer.
We feel like we
Yeah.
feel, and that's our experience. We can feel this way, you know, that like we've kind of created this, you know, and the way we do it with our clients, we're the only ones doing it this way. To the degree we're doing it, you know, we're not just telling people to eat metabolic foods. We're not telling people to just log. We're really teaching people awareness. We're teaching people consistency. We're teaching people all the factors that are required for health. Like food is not health. What comes before food, right? So it's like we need to be consistent. We need to be organized. We need to schedule our success. We need to make sure we have the food. So we're doing all these things with people to really not only help them create balance, I mean, that's the goal, but really set the stage so they have this sustained way of living and eating that they can use for the rest of their life. We're not like, hey, we're going to work with you for 6 months and you're going to heal. No, you're going to school for 6 months. You're going to learn how to heal yourself, but also have this platform to continue to heal and grow and evolve through the you know rest of your life. Because of course, aging is a stress. The stresses in our life, not only stress, but we might work out more. We might, whatever happens, we need to always meet our body where it's at. And if we don't, that's a stress.
I think that we're past the point of general guidelines with respect to health.
Yeah.
I think we're living in a world now where we really have to come more in relationship with ourselves, with our story, honor that on a whole nother level. And we're bringing that awareness to the table and teaching that to people so that it almost frees them from the grips of the internet and how to be in their dis-ease, you know what I mean? Pulling them really back into their health and being with themselves and exploring that so that they can get on with life. And that's really what's coming out of the work. That was not the intention of the work, but that's really how it's evolved over time, is really developing or helping people develop a relationship with themselves, which is bringing consciousness and awareness to a whole nother level, which I think, again, people are craving in this world today. You know, they're looking for that.
Yeah.
So I think as we resource ourselves, we can develop that more over time. So, but going back to the original question and telling you a little bit about myself, very different upbringing. I was raised in a full-on SAD diet. I think back in that day, that was just kind of the standard. I think that's how I think back in the 80s, that was status quo to some degree. I was on my own journey. I think, again, we all are, but I suffered or struggled severely with hormonal imbalances my whole entire life, probably from the womb. Didn't realize what was going on. I was told that, you know, all the women in our family struggle that way, and we all have the same symptoms. So for me, it was a normal thing until it wasn't, and I began to experience my body in a new way, which led me on the journey. And I always had an eye on a more holistic approach. For some reason, that was always just something that resonated with me. It made sense to me, something I could connect with. And my nutrition journey began really from an educational perspective with the Czech Institute. And I think it kind of evolved from there. And then when we came into business together, it was, when we started off as exercise rehab.
I remember that.
I mean, we did nutrition.
What?
We did nutrition. We, like Josh was saying, we did a lot of nutrition. We also did a lot of lab testing. We did supplementation. We went down those paths with our clients, you know, and I think, again, through our own evolution together and individually, we began to realize that there was more to it than just that. Some people were getting well, some people weren't. And again, that still happens today, but I think we're seeing a constant in progression, whether it be, you know, at this level or this level, there's always a progression, where before it was a little bit more stagnant. So, you know, since then, you know, here we find ourselves. And I think over the last 7-8 years, the work we've been developing is really transforming into something incredible that I think the world needs right now.
I agree. Yeah. So. Maja, did you want to?
I was going to say, it
That's
sounds like you're helping people adapt. So, like, as the stresses increase in our lives and as we get more access to everything and become more open to all this information, that mostly it just becomes more of a stress because, especially when you work with someone who's in a very stressful situation already, they can't take all this information in. And it's always great to have, like, guys like you that have actually studied the information, used it in your own lives, and then become like teachers of that and say, hey, here's how it worked for me, see how it works for you. But that adaptation is what we're looking for. It's like, how do you adapt?
absolutely.
Because you don't want to
Yeah,
shut.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say is
Go ahead.
that we don't want to stop living our lives. You know, everyone starts to become like a little bit more caged in. I can't do this after I've had this illness or this disease or this stress, and start to, start taking away things too much. And then, you're limited to what you can do. And so what I feel is most important is to help people still grow within that. So here, take this information and work with this and still live your life. So that's what I meant about adaptation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the approach these days, and it's, again, knowing and unknowing, is we take this information, we throw it all at one time, or we look at getting healthy and it's like this huge, overwhelming mission. How are we going to get
Right.
it? And I think what we do is we have this idea of what the outcome is, where we want to go, but we have to chunk it down into bite-sized pieces depending upon the individual and where they are in their healing process, right?
Exactly.
And begin to approach it from that point of view, because as you mentioned, we're working with people who are in very stressful situations and very under-resourced. And if you throw it all at them at one time, it's going to rebound. They're going to rebound. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And weight, in my opinion, this is different from most approaches, nutrition approaches that are kind of trendy or, kind of well known. Is that, most of nutrition approaches are geared for really quick weight loss. And even the paleo diet is like that, like it's just about aesthetics instead of like the full spectrum of your quality of life. Like, how are you feeling? How are you regulating your body temperature? Everything. So it's just, and those are rarely like really addressed, those kinds of things, like in changes in our body. People just want are looking for the quick fix, and so unwinding people from that, I think, is super important.
And it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard because people come into it. I mean, if you think about it, the internet's great, but it's creating illness, right? It's teaching people, if they want to order something at 2 a.m, they can't have it at the door the next morning, right? And if you want to scroll and get to a new page, it takes 2 seconds, right? So everything's so quick. So people think, oh, well, like I had a guy say to me, I have sleep apnea and all these different things, like, how long do you think it's going to take to heal? I'm 70 years old. Like, you're 70, right? That's 70 plus years of stress and adaptation and compensation. Things do not happen overnight. Anyone that teaches you they do, right? They're really just trying to sell you like a Houdini formula, and it doesn't work like that. We're not trying to just eliminate a symptom. We're trying to work with people's bodies at the cell level and heal them from that level up. So it takes time. We're teaching people how to decompensate. So yeah, it's challenging because people want results overnight, and most people don't know how to tune into those results. So we're trying to teach people to really be aware of how they're feeling and what's going on. I have people that work with me and they pay all this money, and then you look at what their current complaints are and symptoms, and they write absolutely nothing. And they say, I feel fine.
That's probably true, because they don't know. They're numb. They're like numb to everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It kind of shut down, like, what are you talking about? I didn't know my hair was on fire. It's like, what are you talking about? That's normal.
And then a lot of the aging, the things that we are told that is normal for aging, or you're just getting older, so this is supposed to happen. Well, I've come to find out a lot of those things don't have to happen, and they don't have to happen so fast.
Right.
So
we look at stress, it's accelerated aging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we need stress. It helps our body adapt, but it's like, we should be able to bounce back, right? We should be able to bounce back from homeostasis. But too many people living in that survival mode, deriving energy from being in that state. And of course, initially you feel good, but over time, That's when you get the hair falling out, you know, the thyroid issues, the sleep issues, digestive issues, infertility, etc. You know, it's like it's Hans Selye's definition. It's when the demands of that are placed on an organism exceed what the organism can handle. That's a stress. It doesn't mean that like work is a stress. Doesn't mean that like, I don't know, like something is a stress. It just means if you can't handle it, right?
For
So
you, for yourself, like someone else might be able to, right?
Exactly. So if you build up the resilience of your body with how you're living, the awareness that you're creating, the food you're eating to regulate your blood sugar, to push you in a harmonic state, you know, with different things that you need, not everything, maybe breathing exercises, right? Not everyone needs supplements and red light therapy and all these crazy modalities, right? That's a stress when you do too many things. So if we do all those things, then what was a stress is no longer a stress anymore.
And that leads me to understand like the passion that you have about not relying on the supplements so much, where you've been really focused more on helping people utilize the food first, and then now it seems you're using the carbon dioxide and the respiratory side of it, and whatever the modalities that you kind of incorporate. But the beauty of that is because the supplements actually take energy too, and a lot of people don't realize like what you don't have as your base is already going to pull from that whole thing. So that supplements are just another added thing for them to try to you know, process and move through. And there's the whole concept of misinforming that you can just supplement yourself out of a sickness.
Right.
I think there has to be a foundation, and supplements are supplementary.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, to use, again, in alignment with a foundation that can actually reap the benefits of what that supplement has to offer. So yeah, it can be an additional burden, particularly when we have an under-resourced system over consuming them. And we see people coming in with 15, 20 different supplements that they're taking on a daily basis and not really clear about how to use their food. And that's where we're kind of shifting that, bringing it back into the food and the supplements out.
And I mean, that's a huge point. I know people think we're against supplements. We're not against them. We're against how they're being used. Do we use some supplements occasionally with clients if they're needed? 100%, but only when we feel their body is able to handle the supplement, right? And if you think about it, if someone has high cortisol, or if someone's stressed, or someone has acne, it's the law of cause and effect, right? The effect is the symptom. You take a supplement, what are you doing? Absolutely nothing except wasting your money, because you're not changing the effect, the cause. Right? You're doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So
you're plugging something into a chaotic system.
Right. And like Jeannie just said, a lot of things that you're putting in your body when you're in a chaotic state, you have no idea what's going to happen, because, like, for example, if you put pregnenolone in a system that's chaotic, 99% of the time it's going to be converted to cholesterol. If you put DHEA into a system that's chaotic, it's going to be converted to estrogen. If you put T3 into a system that's chaotic, it's not going to be converted. It's going to rev the engine and push you into functional hypothyroidism even deeper and deeper and deeper, right? So for us, food is the foundation. I mean, it's not crazy. It's the foundation for who we are. We're human. We need it to thrive.
I know it sounds funny to say that, right? Like, just eat food. And
what do you mean?
I mean,
what do you mean?
We're fighting a lot of dogma from the health industry. I mean, it comes directly from the medical side to even leans into the chiropractic side to the health food industry that kind of brings in all these aspects of like, this supplement is so much better than real food because of the GMOs or the artificial ingredients and stuff like that. But what we're forgetting is that that's all the symptomatic reasons why someone's still not able to stabilize. Like, there's nothing there inside those products that have anything to do but make the person have to work harder.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's twofold. It's money, because people make a lot of money on these supplements, right? And second, it's laziness. It's pure laziness. People don't want to work, right? They don't want to put in the work. They'd rather not do the work and take a supplement and think they're going to heal versus make change. And for us, that's what healing is. You have to make change to create change. Law of cause and effect, right? You have to change how you're living, how you're thinking, how you're breathing, how you're eating to change who you are, because you are everything from conception till now. And if you don't, nothing will change.
It could be also the addiction to adrenaline and serotonin, you know, to some extent, for people wanting to keep going. And so they'll just take anything so they can just keep going.
Yeah.
But that's like a fake energy, right? It's not real, real sustainable. So that's kind of how I see it, because it's like, you know, I mean, everybody, I guess, you know, also in our society, we just want to keep going, 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 but we're not actually honoring our bodies in the way where we need to replenish, or we need to rest, or if you're resting, you're you know, you're weak, or you're, you know, whatever, like you're being vulnerable. But, you know, actually you just, you know, it's okay. You know, I just want to be like, that's what I love about what you guys are teaching people, is that you're actually teaching people how to become more aware of their bodies, what their bodies are telling them, you know, and how to read that from a physiological standpoint, instead of just looking at yourself in the mirror or getting on the scale, you know.
I think we determined several years back that health does not have a look. You know, I think that we really dictate by how the cells are breathing. If you want to, you know, challenge if you're healthy or not, let's take some readings. Let's see where you're at physiologically, you know, and that will let us whether or not you're constantly in a state of compensation, or your body actually is thriving with everything. It's taking all those environmental, internal, external, what's the word I'm looking for? Factors, variables, and able to metabolize it all, right, into a healthy way. And I think that's really what we're looking at, is when we assess the body, is looking at how well your body is able to meet.
Which can sometimes be better than a lab test, right? I mean,
absolutely,
100%. I mean, this is the thing. Part of our philosophy is philosophy, and part of it is art, and part of it is science, right? And you know, labs have their place, but we're not doctors. We don't want to play doctor. If labs are designed to prescribe a medication, you know, or diagnose, we're not doctors. So why would we want to do labs? And the funny thing is, most people are doing lab after lab after lab. They come to us with stacks of labs, stacks of supplements. And they'll say to us, what do you think is wrong? My doctor said there's nothing wrong with me. And I keep trying to, now I'm going to do a gut test. If there's nothing wrong with you, why aren't you smiling? It's like you want something to be wrong with you, right? Just because you don't feel good. Well, labs are designed to tell you, in a sense, like when there's true dysfunction and disease. And a lot of the times, maybe you do need to treat that with a medication. But we're trying to teach people how to eat, and you can't do that with the lab. You do that by looking at the person. You know, but a lot of these people come to us and they'll say, well, what supplements do you think I need? You just have done that over and over again. It's not working for you. The problem is people don't really know, and this is like our message. We want them to know that, of course, it's more than just eating food. We're just using that as a blanket term. That if you eat the right foods to meet your metabolic needs, over time you can heal, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and consistency, patience and courage, and you know, all these different things to keep on that path.
Which is a funny statement, because most people come in saying, how long is it going to take, right? It's automatically showing that their mindset is already in the wrong direction, because they're going, well, I have this date that I'm thinking I could, you know, be better by. And when you get into that, you have to unwind that to get them to go, okay, well, wait a minute, let's not have a time frame. Let's just see how you're doing tomorrow. You know, and so some of that kind of translates into what we've already talked about. But it's important for people to realize, like, there is no end game. There's a feeling game. Like, how you're going to feel tomorrow is more important than, you know, what you're going to do, you know, at the moment. Or at the moment's the more important, but just not tomorrow.
And I think being able to give them tools that are set with intention and purpose and strategy is going to assist in that process by giving it's a progress, right? So if we know why we're doing something, sometimes we can let go of when that's going to come, because what we're really trying to do is develop a foundation for health to emerge.
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, talking people out of that is sometimes it's a banging your head up against the wall kind of a thing. It's really about just giving them specific instruction and let's talk about that when the time is, you know what I mean? Let's move through this. But we also have to, you know, when we assess people, it's going back to conception, you know, all the way until now. So we really have to place into perspective the whole story. And then when we start to have those conversations, people can begin to really connect with that and be like, oh, you know what? It has been since early childhood that I've been experiencing what I'm experiencing. You know, I've never been able to digest my food. I've always had these issues. Well, to expect that something's going to, you know, completely shift overnight or even within a couple of weeks, not that it can't significantly shift in a good direction, but is a little bit unrealistic. But I think that's the world that we're living in. We're being taught to have those expectations.
Right.
And part of, again, the work is in building the awareness and the consciousness around and embracing our individuality. You know, so we can quit shaming ourselves and comparing ourselves and beating ourselves down because, you know, this person eats like shit and they don't feel like I do. Well, they haven't had the same experiences as you have either. So we have to take that into consideration. And just as disease is an accumulative process, so is healing. You know,
and I think if everything happened all at once for people, that would be a shit show too, because like,
they can't handle
I can't imagine.
I mean, you know, so it's like something we tell our clients all the time is healing is not a destination, it's a journey, right? And the more we embrace that journey, we'll be able to create that awareness. And it's hard for people to understand each day what's going on because they don't have that awareness. And that's why we use our food logs, body temperature, pulse, and other things to help them attach to the mind and the body and create that awareness so they know. I mean, like, for example, this, and I'm sure Jeannie has a million too.
From today.
A client emailed me and said, you know, here's my log. What do you think? Right? And that's obviously for us a red flag because the log's not for me. It's for you. I want you to tell me what's going on. What have you created? But, you know, and she says, all you can tell is that I'm tired. So I emailed her back and I say, well, tell me more about like how you're feeling. You know, like how's your cycle? How's your acne? Because that was like why she came to me. Oh my God, like my acne is almost completely gone and my cycle's regulated. I'm like, you didn't even tell me that.
They
you know, people can't really connect with that stuff. We're so focused on what's wrong with us,
right,
versus what's right with us. You know, it's like I don't know what it is. I don't even know how to phrase it, but I feel like in our society, it's almost like there always has to be something wrong, right? We always have to be processing something. We always have to be chasing a symptom. We always have to be, you know, trying to reach happiness and do all these different things instead of just embracing where we're at and experience where we are. And if we do, things are going to flow through us and everything we're trying to search for, it's happening.
Yeah.
We just don't know it's happening, you know? And I think that's part of healing, but it takes time, you know, and it takes a long time. And that's why, you know, we work with people, but, you know, we can't work with people until they die. So we're here to teach them tools so they can become their own practitioner.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a re-education. It comes from many years of people, like you said, not getting information and then being churned into a society that constantly makes you chase after consumerism. It makes you have to follow for whatever's the trend. And then you get into, you know, the aspects of like, oh, this is you're just getting older now and your aging is starting and you just don't have any reasons to believe that you're, you know, going to get better. It's just going downhill now. So like it's almost like, and you guys are parents now, you know, you guys have a real knowledge of how it's starting from the conception of your own child to the now what's going to process through him, and what you're doing is, you know, kind of taking that information and helping him. But it's the new generations that can kind of take this information and say, okay, let me be my own self-practitioner, you know, because we've kind of gotten away from that. You know, everyone's had to listen to their doctor for so long. So bringing ourselves back to being able to be, you know, releasing that self-helplessness. You know, for some reason we have keep, you know, having that come back as a reason for why we can't do things. So.
we repeatedly give our power away.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it comes down to it's easier to do that than actually look at it.
Right.
Or to look at what's underlying, you know, it's easier to give it to somebody else to deal with it. So it all makes sense, but we're offering a different opportunity. We're offering an opportunity to do something different, you know, and to really step into something that, yeah, it can get scary. You can hit some pretty tough walls, you know, because you're coming up against decision-making, habits, genetic
change.
I mean, you know, family dynamics where we learn to be a certain way. I think a lot of, you know, I always talk about the nervous system because I think our physiology is an expression of that individual nervous system and its development, you know. So it's really what we're coming up against. And there's a story with that. And the more we can understand that story, I think the easier it is for us to begin to let go and trust the process a little bit more.
Yeah.
But going go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, even like with the nervous system and like when people feel like they're like sensitive to all these foods, just looking at the food sometimes can invoke like a you know, a physiological response to that, and they don't even realize it.
The web, I mean, that's like a blessing and a curse in disguise, right? Yeah. Because we have people self-diagnosing themselves, they're on forums, and they're just spinning out of control. You know, the health industry, in my opinion, is creating so much dysfunction right now. You see all these people, and we talk to them every day. They're just so lost and confused because they're all over the web and on all these different forums. They're being told to take this medication or to take this supplement that someone makes in their garage or to drink a gallon of orange juice a day or to do this detox or whatever it may be, right? But no one's really saying, let's just change, you know, and it's perpetuating disease. But I don't know where it's going with that, but going back to the nervous system, that's why we use food, because the autonomic nervous system, and when I say food, I mean like to get ourselves breathing properly, and of course, food strategy, yeah, and metabolic foods, because like I said, there's a lot more to it than just food. It's frequency, ratios, and grams. But the autonomic nervous system, according to everyone, is involuntary, right? But the two things that influence the autonomic nervous system voluntary is how we eat and regulate our blood sugar, as well as breathing. And how we breathe at the cell level is influenced by how we eat, and how we breathe at the physiological level is influenced by what's going on at the cellular level. So if we marry those two, we get balance between the autonomic nervous system, which is sympathetic, parasympathetic. So we create harmony. So you can influence your physiology or your nervous system with food, whether you're parasympathetic or nervous or sympathetic. Same thing with breathing physiologically. How you breathe through your nose, the breath holds you do, how long you take to exhale, etc. You can influence something that's supposed to be involuntary. So now you're literally taking, kind of in a sense, your power back. You're taking your body back, and you're connecting with your body, and it's very powerful to me. You're kind of in control when you feel like you're not in control, and you have these very two simple things now that you can do every day to influence your physiology, which means you can influence how you feel, how you think, how you breathe, how you act, your energy, etc.
So there's a lot
of well, then it can become a resource to you, you know.
So there's a lot of mindfulness now that people talk about, but it actually is like kind of a practice of learning your own self. Like if you eat fast, if you, you know, are definitely putting yourself in a stressful situation of just how your day works and all of the things that kind of come with it. There is always this definite like reconstructing how much you're not present. You know, where are you losing yourself? And that's so vital, because that's the part that most people just, you know, go on to their other side of the coin and just automatically just do their lives, you know, don't have any sense of what's going on.
Yeah. The biggest fear is the need to kind of eliminate or, you know, remove that piece from your life. And that's not necessarily the goal. It's about learning how to do it in a way that isn't compromising you. And again, the food tools are a powerful resource to assist that process. And over time, if further action needs to be taken and adjusting where, different environments or relationships or whatnot,
Of course.
then you have the opportunity to explore that. That will naturally evolve over time. But
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of opportunity to affect, like Josh says, your physiology using your food. And that's really what we're doing, is we're plugging it in. We're kind of doing for the body with food what the body can't do for itself until it can.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes total sense. Yeah. And I think, also getting, in a way, eliminating distractions. Like I consider supplements a distraction for your body to some extent. And, for your liver and that kind of thing, it makes it much harder for it to do its job. But also, the stresses that maybe you're drawing into yourself to create trauma in your life, or whatever you're doing, or the negative thoughts, or just always looking at what's wrong with you. That could be a thing too. And repatterning that can actually get you in a space like you guys are talking about, to be able to eat the right foods, to pay attention to what your body is doing, become more aware in that way too. So yeah, and it's kind of like what Wim Hof is doing in a way, because he's, just getting people to just go out in nature and breathe in really cold water.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. So, I mean, it's more than that, of course. But
yeah, there's a huge science behind it, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he's doing the same thing with breathing and water that we're doing with food.
Yeah. That's why that brings, I think about him when I think about you guys, because I kind of feel like there's some similarity going on there.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, Josh, I noticed recently, like, you were talking about on your social media, cold showers at night as opposed to in the morning. And I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about that, because I know that people talk about mostly doing the cold showers in the morning, but like physiologically, how is that? You want to just explain to everybody how that's more beneficial in the evening, and how it brings maybe stress levels down?
Yeah, I mean, you could really do it any time of the day.
Okay.
But if we're talking about, like, what most people have trouble sleeping, correct? Most people have trouble regulating their autonomic nervous system. Most people are in a sympathetic state, and they're deriving energy from that state all the time. They're breaking their tissues down to produce energy instead of storing energy to use that energy. So what we're trying to do is, in a sense, hold on to what I just said, but what we're trying to do with food is put people's body in more of a metabolic state. Put their body in a more of a pro-thyroid state, where they're producing more mitochondria, they're producing more energy, right? They're producing more brown fat. So they're like this metabolic machine. Cold showers do the same thing, because when you change the temperature dramatically, what happens is, a technical word coming up, it's called mitochondrial biogenesis. So that change in temperature causes more mitochondria, because the body wants to warm itself. So you kind of trick the body to produce more mitochondria. You produce more brown fat, which is metabolic, more prothyroid. It actually eats white fat. That's why, like, all these cryotherapy places say you can lose weight by doing cryotherapy. Yeah.
But, and you do have to help them understand, like, the fuel before they go to sleep, or before they do any of this stuff, because it does take that to go through the nighttime stress. So is that awesome?
Well, yeah, I mean, not with cold. So I'll explain the difference between the hot and the cold. So it makes you produce more energy, but at the same time, it creates balance within the autonomic nervous system, right? So it doesn't waste energy, and it regulates the sympathetic and parasympathetic balance, where a hot shower or a hot jacuzzi or something like that wastes glucose. That's why a lot of people get hyperadrenaline, or they'll get lightheaded in a jacuzzi, because they're not storing and regulating your blood sugar. And when you go in this heat, it wastes energy much faster. So the cold doesn't do that. So that's why you see a lot of people when they do like breathing exercises, or they do like controlled hyperventilations, like at night, which pushes them sympathetic on purpose. And then they take the cold shower, and it balances them out. So it teaches their body to self-regulate. So it's an exercise that you can do to self-regulate. So it actually helps people sleep. And there's a lot of research to show, like, if you're going to go exercise, or you're going to lift heavy weights, you want to go hit like a PR for a lift or something, or let's say go on a great hike, to always take a cold shower prior to that, because it's going to regulate your nervous system more and put you in a more energy balanced state than an energy using state that you'd be in with like a hot shower or a hot bath.
So is that same thing as the hot cold, where you would go in for a cold,
Yeah.
sit in the hot,
Yeah.
and then go back to the cold and do interval work?
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, most people, like if I use it with clients, I recommend they go like 60 seconds hot, 30-second cold for 3 times and end with cold. But, you know, you got to start, you know, a little bit to the right of cold, you know, so it's not, because the thing is with cold, what do most people do when they go in cold?
Right. That's what I was thinking.
That creates a huge neurological response within the nervous system and in the brain. And that begins hyperventilation within the system without you knowing you're hyperventilating. So the purpose of doing the cold as well is really being able to control your breathing, which controls your nervous system. And that's why Wim Hof can go in the cold for so long. That's why he can climb mountains, because he's learned to control his environment, right, in the effect on his body through breathing.
Yeah, I think that's with the Buddhist monks, where they tested their brain neurological where they were going, and they put them under severe cold blankets, and they underneath they when they took them out of their meditation, there was actually body heat that kept them regulated in a way that it was metabolizing or balancing themselves in terms of being able to stay in that meditation for so long.
Right. And it's all the breathing.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime you not breathe deeper, right, because that's actually very sympathetic, but anytime you breathe deeper in a sense of volume, like longer, or you exhale longer, or you hold your breath, or you hold your breath on the end of exhale, you increase CO2 within the system, and you stimulate the vagus nerve, which is parasympathetic, right? So it has a huge effect on the heart, the lungs, the mind, the body, the senses, right? And the temperature of your body.
Yeah.
So it's a tool. And the reason, like, I'm addicted to it and so fascinated about it, she's laughs at me, but like, it's something we've been talking about for years, because what we're trying to do is get people's body breathing better at the cell level through thyroid hormone conversion, taking oxygen into the cell, that's why we breathe, and producing CO2 at the cell level, which is metabolic. People think oxygen is metabolic. CO2 is metabolic. Without CO2, we would not be alive, right? So it's fascinating to me, because it's just another tool that you can use with the right person to help them, you know, through their, you know, healing journey, to marry those two together.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why yoga and all these breathing techniques, pranayama, have been well known for so many centuries, is because of what it does to the parasympathetic nervous system, and how the mind can kind of sit in a meditation for so long. But most people don't understand it in a way of healing the body. It's more of, this is a practice I'm supposed to do to help myself meditate. But what you're saying is going deeper to the cellular respiration and finding how it works in the physiology, right?
Yeah, and I think the reason a lot of people have trouble with talking about breathing is because when you start talking about breathing, the only culture that's really talked about it is yoga. And they use all these big words that make no sense to people, that you can't even pronounce or even spell, right? So it's challenging, because most of us are more left-brained, right? So what I'm trying to do, or we're trying to do through studying, is use more just like left-brain breathing, and taking people's CO2 tolerance and seeing where they're at and saying, okay, here's some exercises you can do, right? You don't have to sit under a tree. It's not called meditation. It's called breathing, right? In a sense, they are meditating. They just don't know it.
One conscious breath is meditation.
Right. So we're teaching, you know, it's like, it's something I do every day. I do it every morning and every evening.
I do. I breathe every day too.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we've all started breathing the second we've, you know, come into this world, but I've done the exercises, and it's something I'm really trying to use with some clients because I feel like it's very beneficial.
Well, I think it's very personal to you too, because you did suffer with asthma and you have had different, I mean, even with hockey and whatnot. So he's never been a very good breather to some degree. And now you're really tuning in.
I can understand that. I've had asthma too, so when
Yeah.
I was younger,
Yeah, but asthma is hyperventilating. So I like using
Right,
people with
yeah.
like metabolic issues, and it
Yeah,
even like
very
from an
effective.
athletic perspective, it's incredible, because the more CO2 we can tolerate, the more oxygen we can access.
Yeah.
The more oxygen we access, the more energy we produce, the more oxygen we get to our tissues, which means increased performance and increased recovery and healing. Right?
That's why
Most people.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say that's why altitude training has always been a big thing in athletes, because they come down from all that training and just performance is excelled. And, you see it when you, when you do it, you can just see how much more ease it is to do your sport or do whatever you need.
Right, and through my studies, what I'm trying to do is take the altitude to the person, because you don't need to go at high altitude, right?
And you don't need that big chamber that you have to spend $10,000 to just be in. And
no, you don't. All you have to do is get better through doing breathing exercises. When I started, I could barely hold my breath for 20 seconds. Now I can hold it for 2 minutes straight, no problem.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
doing
awesome.
doing the exercises. So it's building up your tolerance to CO2, which, of course, according to all these methods like Buteyko and, Brian McKenzie and all these different people, it equates to health, right? Which is true. And it aligns with what we're teaching people, from a thyroid perspective. So that's why I'm fascinated by it.
Now, have you looked into like the swimmers? Like a lot of swimmers become very good at breathing because of the long holds that they practice and stuff. Have you noticed?
It's probably the only sport that you can do that you're actually doing breathing exercises while you're doing the sport, because you have to. Well, you are breathing like a real swimmer will breathe because they breathe out. Most people will hold their breath, but still, it's a great sport to do to build up a CO2 tolerance. That's why a lot of people get a lot of benefit from it, for sure.
And then if you're in Colorado and high altitude, you're excelling your CO2 buildup even more because of all that training out there. Yeah. I was very familiar with all that when I was in the triathlon world, and so a lot of that kind of came into the play. Now it's kind of neat to hear you guys talk about it and how you're working with people in the metabolic food strategies that you're kind of working with them.
Well, the reason is most people that are hyperventilating have hypothyroidism. Sleep apnea is accelerated hypothyroidism. And most people hyperventilate. And you see this with not only how they breathe, how their structure is, right? Because how their structure is, let's just leave it there, but also with different testing, their temp and pulse, etc. And we can see this, right? And people don't really understand what that does to their nervous system, right? Yeah. Number one, we're not getting oxygen in the system.
I was just going to say, we live in a stress-induced society and we're very sedentary. So that in and of itself is going to limit the expansion of breath.
Yeah.
100%. So
most people are, again, in that state.
And hypothyroid people hyperventilate because they're not taking in enough oxygen. They're not taking in oxygen. They're living in a hypoxic world. That's why they're not producing, beside how they're eating, that's why they can't produce energy. So it's another tool to use with people that are, have these metabolic issues like sleep apnea, asthma, and hypothyroidism, because of course food can help, but why not use something else that will, help them move along a little bit faster, maybe.
It's just another tool.
Yeah.
So I have one question, Allison. I'll let.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say was, if you said there are things for people to realize, like in terms of them not being hyperthyroid, they're having the symptoms. They're not the diagnosable hyperthyroid person. one of the things that I noticed was some people say, well, I have a low breath rate. I don't have to take a lot of air. Maybe I swam or whatever. But one of the things that you're saying, if I'm correct, is that if they're truly hyperthyroid, then they'll have the hyperventilating aspect to it too. It's not just some.
That is what you just said, though, right? They're not going to be sitting here going,
right.
Right? They're just not taking in enough oxygen. Number one, they're mouth breathing, right? And number two, their inhalation and exhalation is really short, right? And that's seen through their CO2 threshold. They're probably able to exhale, for a total of 10 seconds maximum or 20 seconds tops, right? So they're not taking in enough oxygen, right? And they're not retaining some CO2, and they're expelling too much CO2.
So
that they can determine that.
So a simple test is this is done through the nose, because we're supposed to breathe through the nose, not the mouth. Mouth is for eating. So you would just take your 3 to 5 normal breaths through your nose, just pretend I just did. Then take a deep breath. And then as slow as you can, hit the timer, exhale through your nose as slow as you can. And then when the time is up, hit stop. Most of my clients that I test are 10, 15 seconds.
Okay.
When I started,
I'm going to do that.
When I started, I was about 15 seconds. Through doing my exercises for 4 months, I just tested it yesterday. It was 50 seconds now.
Oh, wow.
Her first one was 40 seconds.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I grew up with a lot of asthma. But still, whatever. But it's using that and then giving people certain exercises based on where they're at, because their numbers are going to change. The different inhales and exhales and holds. Like if they're at 10 seconds, they're going to be like a 1-1-2-1 or a 2-2-4-2. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. But if they're at like 40 seconds, that might be like a 7-7-14-7, or a 7-7-7, or there's different patterns I use. So it's like, it's beneficial and it really helps people, but we don't want to take away from the food. So I don't always use it in the beginning, because then that's all people do. It's just a small thing that people can do to support what we're doing.
So it sounds
right?
like
and create awareness within their system.
Says the breatharian, the ones that live off breath. Like,
those
you can
guys.
start
I forgot
to
about those
create
guys.
some, dogma around that.
That sounds.
Oh,
yeah.
Don't you have an outlet or somewhere online that you're offering?
I created a page on Instagram and Facebook. I haven't put anything on it yet, just because
I saw it.
of time. Yeah, it's called Metabolic Breathing. So if you want to go to Facebook or Instagram, definitely follow it. I'll be putting stuff up really soon. I just have to
be a dad.
I have to create a couple things first, because I don't want to post any exercises, because I figured it out finally, how to get people to understand what their CO2 tolerance is, because without that, you don't know where to start with your exercises. Meaning, like, if I say, what I want you to do in the morning is do 5 breaths of a 1-1-2-1 and then 5 breaths of like a 1-1-1 based on your CO2 tolerance, you need to know, should I do like a 5-5-10-5, or should I do a 7-7-14-7 based off that, based on my CO2 tolerance? Because that's the beginning of it all. So I'm kind of setting that up right now, and then I'm going to have like coming soon, just breathing exercises, diaphragm strengthening exercises, just sharing stuff, because I think it really aligns with everything that we're doing, and of course.
Well, I think going back to talking about the nervous system, most people don't know how to self-regulate. So it's a great tool to use in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've been discussing, right? So
absolutely
put it into language or.
Yeah, it's a key. It is a key, the other key into the autonomic nervous system. We breathe. We don't have to think about it, but we can think about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I found it really powerful, because you can give it to people in the morning to do. And I have found tremendous benefit from doing it. You can teach people different ways to upregulate their sympathetic nervous system and downregulate it with breath, right? or stimulate their parasympathetic nervous system, or whatever it may be. And yeah, so something.
You guys could have a breathing retreat.
Well, where once we
you know,
all this, we want to create a breathing course. Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I would do it. I meant to,
I would do it.
I would, you know, it's so funny. We went through the whole thing that I totally didn't even tell the audience how we're connected with you guys and how we know you. And I just want to just say it real quick. You know, you know, you guys coached me, and I've had some craniosacral with Jeannie, which was amazing before. I've known you guys for a very long time and seen you evolve, and you're the metabolic blueprint, which is now you guys have transformed that into something else, got me started on all this, and helped me really kind of figure out, you know, kind of it blew my mind in a way. So thank you guys for that, and really helping me change my mindset around nutrition, because I definitely hit a huge roadblock before that and did not know where to go. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's exciting that you're able to benefit from it so much.
Yeah, you know, it just takes years to learn. You know,
unfortunately, but what you
guys
said,
make it easier.
It's really nice. It doesn't take years to learn what we're teaching. It's taking you years to reconnect with yourself through the work that you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
And that's all it is. We're always just teaching people how to use food.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
But in a really complex way, like under the surface, it's scientific. But on the surface, you're like, all you want me to do is eat food and regulate my blood sugar through food frequency. Like, there's a lot to it, though.
Yeah.
You know, based on body temperature and pulse and all the things we teach.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is there any other questions you want to ask Maja, or is anything you guys want to add?
I was just gonna say, when you came out with the connection to repeat, I remember being on a Facebook thread with some girl that had some issues, and she was actually in one of our Czech classes, and we had listened to. I had heard you dialogue with her about repeat and all the information she was trying to talk about, and then from there you guys exploded the information out into the world so that people could kind of tap into it. You did all the work and you set it all up, so it was good. I mean, it was
no one's ever said that.
You guys are the first people to do that, I think.
You said it, but no one's ever said it, you know.
Well, it's true, because I mean, I think there was somebody else that was doing it. I don't remember who it was, but it was nowhere near where it needed to be to get attained to start the flow that now has happened. Like, people are repeat forums, they're starting Facebook places called Repeat Inspire. There's all these groups that people have attained.
This is a huge topic for us.
Man, maybe we should have talked about that.
I got Jeannie back into the group.
Yeah.
In the
she got back in there.
Is completely opposite of where we interpreted the work. I think people are taking it to a whole very.
There's a lot of dogma right now. Like, I don't even have a chance. I can't even go on it anymore, because personally, when I start reading it, it's like, whoa, where did y'all all go? Like, everybody that was in the beginning was somewhat, on board about like figuring it out, but now it's all about this is wrong and repeat's wrong and this is this and that's this, and it's like, whoa, I can't spend time looking at that anymore. It's like,
I mean, he came into our world in like 2004 and had really influenced our work 100%. But I always tell people, he doesn't have a system.
No.
That's why, all the people you talk to have their own system. And I think people really have to remember that. But here is the issue, is that if you truly don't understand physiology or chemistry, you can get lost in the very superficial level of what he's teaching. So you come out of it thinking, all I need to do is eat gelatin, broth, orange juice, and milk, take pregnenolone, vitamin K, DHEA, sunlight,
and thyroid
therapy, and T3, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's not true,
and it's
right?
dangerous.
And he's even said it before, and I posted it actually on our Instagram quoting him. It was actually a couple weeks ago about context, and you have to realize that everything he uses is an example, and if you understand the depth of his work, it's not about dysfunction, it's about function, and it's about really looking at the individual and using food, of course, how we interpreted it. It's not about saying that this is the Petarian way of eating and everyone has to eat this way. Right. That, in my opinion, unfortunately completely bastardizes his work, which is beautiful. And yeah, I mean, we tell our clients, unfortunately, to stay away from these forums just because it creates so much confusion. And a lot of these people end up coming to work with us in the end anyway. And it's sad, but that's where it's at. And of course, for us, that's not who we are, because we feel like we're trying to create harmony, and that's just, it's gone way to the left, and it's just too far to the left now, and people are getting, hurt from it. So yes, that stuff's out there, and I agree with you 100%. It's just, it's out of control right now.
And Ray Pete is, in most of his interviews, is very good about not being dogmatic. He's like, try it for yourself, and his way of talking is like, he's giving you an example. He doesn't say, yes, go do that, and so many people have lost that, like, ability to take his information and just say, hey, let me see what it looks like for me, and if it doesn't work, then be the authority of yourself. It's just crazy. It's like, and it's sad, because that's what makes the ripple effect come back and say, oh, none of this was working, this doesn't work, and this is, and so then it's the whole, like, wait a minute, did you even notice how you ran into the wall first and then rebound yourself out, and just thought, no, that didn't work, instead of just like, look for the door, a keyhole,
I have a 2 o'clock client.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you,
bye.
guys.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. I don't know. Look at him. He's like,
So thanks, Jeannie.
Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah.
So you can find Josh and Jeannie at eastwesthealing.com. They have a gift if you go to their website. I'll put the link on the YouTube under our video, and on the website. It's eastwesthealing.com/restoration thyroid audio series. So it's a 7-part audio series on how to heal your adrenals and metabolism with food. So they're gonna offer that up, which is awesome, and I've downloaded that myself, and I like it a lot. Thank you for doing that. Yeah,
and definitely subscribe, because you'll be getting also a restoration thyroid starter kit. So it's all free. There's no obligation. So definitely check it out.
Josh, do you guys have anything that you're offering, like any new online courses or anything that you're offering up right at the moment, or?
Not right at the moment. Most of everything we're offering is coming through that subscription. That's why I'm telling people to subscribe, because there's things we're offering there that we're not even talking about anywhere else. Of course, we do our one-on-one consulting, which is on our website, and that's our business. And we work with clients all over the globe.
You also have an Instagram.
But yeah, I mean, I think, go ahead.
Your Instagram thing that you've been, I noticed you've been having a live Q&A on Instagram. Is that?
We do a live Q&A every Wednesday at 1, but of course we do it today because we did this, which is, okay. We try to do it every Wednesday, on our Instagram, which is at Real Food Gangsters. And we're working on creating a couple new programs in the near future. Just gotta have the time to really buckle down and do them. One on breathing, and then kind of a bigger program like on the restoration thyroid, encompassing like all of our work. So cool. Because the metabolic blueprint had to go, unfortunately.
And you have a really great YouTube channel too that has a ton of information on it.
Yeah, all that's on our website, like our Facebook and our Twitter and Instagram. All that annoying stuff is on our website.
Okay. Well, thank you, Josh, and thanks to Jeannie over there for coming on our show. We had so much fun, and we really appreciate you guys. So,
yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for helping the world too. I mean, we need more of your sharing of your knowledge, because it's needed.
We try.
And we invite you to. I know you guys are so busy, but we just like to plug the fact that we have a Facebook online community that we're hoping more people will come and kind of give information and share, so that people will have a better access to the people that we interview. And if they need to get in touch with you, they can go there too. So.
Cool.
Yeah, Integrate Yourself podcast community is the page, and then we have a Patreon page, patreon.com/integrate yourself. We'll be posting a lot of stuff on that too. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right.
See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.